ignoring it. Well, that is not non-attachment. On top of that, let's say that I'm at this moment bothered by your question, okay? And every time when I want to answer you on something else to get away from that question, I will, and you want to speak, I ignore it. Well, I cannot ignore it with using power to hold myself back and to put my foot on the brake. So it is damaging me more than that it does me any good. So if I become non-attached, it means I am dominated now by something, and I better let go of that rung because I don't get any further. I don't get higher upon the ladder. So I become non-attached to that what dominates me. My irritation with you, for instance, let us just say this for a moment. And so I put my mind to a higher need, which is we like to get a better interview than that's the higher need at this moment, and I'm committed to that, so I grab the next rung and become attached to that. Till that becomes so dominated that I have to let go of that one. That is progressive growing. And it means when you're non-attached, you're not going to be bothered, you're totally involved with all the problems without getting bugged by it. Because you put so much energy out in that higher need, and we must realize that lower energy cannot enter into higher energy. You know, I realize, you know, that they are part of this omnipresence, and that therefore I have to put my love out to them, and I have to surround them with my energy so that I can adapt myself to their state and they can adapt themselves to my state. So we get a synchronization taking place, and even if they are down, I cannot be affected by that. I can only pull them up, and they cannot pull me down. You see, so from sympathy we go to empathy. You see.
Yes.
And this is all part of that function of life. I don't think that any of us didn't come to really help this your whole universe, and thereby again also that one little particle we call planet Earth. To be, we are in dominion of it, our bodies were created from it. Then don't we have a relationship with it then? Don't we have a relativity with it? Aren't they our closest relatives, the particles in our body with the particles in the earth? And if we don't take good care of that earth, we also don't take good care of this body. Because we are depending upon that, as well as that the earth is depending upon us. Part of the meaning of life on earth, which is not the beginning, it is not the end. That's just an intermezzo, as I see it. Of that total process to get, you know, and I'm quite sure that you're familiar with Buddhism. You know, to become Buddha is the greatest, you know, become one with Buddha, right? And, but there are some who might have reached that and said, hey, so what now? I have made it, so I must have known the steps and I must have known the path. Otherwise I couldn't have gotten here.
Yes.
And even though I got lost a couple of times, I'm here now. But what a boring situation. No challenge anymore. So please send me back to those who are still groveling in the mud, who don't know where the pathway is, don't know even where to start, so I can show them my map and tell them that if they walk that path, they can find it. And I will wait till the last one is in, then I at least have some company when I finally come up. And we call that person, of course, a bodhisattva. You see? And I think we all should recognize that we have the bodhisattva capacity within us. That, you know, I get people and they will say, you know, Jack, tell me, I've been trying to become one with God, you know, and I've been trying, and it doesn't work, you know. And I said, well, give it up. Because I know, and I'm not a prophet, but I can tell you that you cannot become one with God. And he said, how come? I said, well, how can you become that what you are already? The only thing that you can become is becoming aware of what your qualities are and how you can relate this to that universal idea. And I don't care if you call it God, creator, nature, or whatever. As long as you see it is a higher level of intelligence, because it is the complex intelligence of everything that exists in the universe, and not just the human beings.
Yes.
And not just the three worlds, the animal world, vegetable world, and mineral world, and human beings. It is the totality of the universe. And now I think our science shows us that information operates not through wires, but it goes into the air on microwaves, you know, and translation takes place in those who can be in tune with it. So all of us must have some capacity to be intuitive. And the more you get into the state of a higher state of consciousness, a higher brainwave state, which is actually a lower frequency but a higher voltage, you then become so powerful that you become like a huge TV station, which is powerful and gets global news instead of the local news. You see? And I joke about it and said, well, people, you are all in local news now, you're listening to the pork belly prices, and therefore you miss the satellite news. So when we already are acting upon the satellite news, you are still trying to figure out what the pork belly prices were.
Yes.
And then you're surprised that you're behind the 8-ball. You know.
Yes.
So that is, you know, and I know that it is a longer answer upon the question, what's the meaning of life, but we cannot keep anything out of it because everything has its meaning.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure that you know the book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
Yes.
You see.
Incredible book.
Yeah. Is the meaning to get rich? Is the meaning to just exist? Or is the meaning to grow?
Yes.
And to be, therefore, I feel I'm an eternal student. Till I have become the totality. Then I don't need to study anymore, but I probably will hardly be able to wait to become a tutor again to those who haven't yet achieved it yet. And I think that's the greatest purpose I personally feel I can follow.
And it seems that a part of what you're saying is that we have forgotten who we really are. As human beings, we think we're these separate creatures, and we are one with it all.
Right,
and
we are one with it all.
And the path includes, I'm very gratified to hear you say how the path includes service to others and taking care of the universe.
Right.
I mean,
well, to take another religion
wonderful.
for a moment, since we mentioned Buddhism, you know, and they might think that we are Buddhists, which, you know, there is truth in everyone, in every religion, true in every philosophy.
Yes.
But let us take a Christian statement. Jesus said once, I'm in this world, not of this world. I say the same thing, but I have added to it, but as long as in this world, I have to serve this world in order to serve myself, capital letters.
I see.
You see, in order to serve my thyself, my thou self.
Yes.
You see.
Yes.
So we cannot do it without service. What good does it do that I can do all these things with my body, that I can prevent diseases, that I can inject myself with bacilla, with viruses, with toxins, and I don't get an infection, okay? I don't bleed, I don't feel pain. What a great thing to do. But what good is it if you see other people who can do it and suffer from it? Well, it is a simple thing to say, now, you know, people, this is not a miracle. If you do this and that, you can do that yourself too, because you have the same potentials. I went through research, and before I would go into research to demonstrate these things,
yes.
I would go through all the physiological tests, the urine test, blood test, tissue test, x-rays, you name it. Yeah? A manuscript is thick.
Yes.
To find out if I don't have vinegar in my veins, if I don't have little transistors in my veins, and they find out I'm physiologically very similar to the rest of the human beings. So I don't have anything extra. God didn't love me more and give me something extra because he wanted to keep me a little longer here so I wouldn't bleed to death or I wouldn't get infected by viruses. And therefore we say that, listen, people, you have the same ability and I can show you the map, but you will have to walk the territory. You have to do it.
Yes.
Huh? And that's part of the service,
yes.
Living their potentials and trying to become mimickers of what the society dictates to them, not realizing we can all become independent persons so that we can indeed have interdependency. We need to be independent and recognize our own potential and dare to stand up for them and to portray them, even though your whole society might spit on you. That should be a challenge for you rather than a deterrent, you see. you must realize, but what you have read about me, what you have heard about me, you know, that for 35 years, you know, I was called a fool and crazy and a fake, you know, all these things. And, you know, it has never disturbed me. It only has prompted me to keep living it.
Yes.
You know, I can't help it that other people are asleep. I will keep shaking them. And when they wake up, you know, my first classes I wrote, but I at that time wrote still, you know, was called A Course in Spiritual Awakening. And then I discovered that I awakened them all right, but they stayed in bed. So what good did it do? So I started to call it a Course in Spiritual Awareness, so that they were aware of what was happening. Now the action has to follow.
Yes.
If you have no awareness, there is no action. So this whole thing of becoming aware, what are you? What are you? And when you said about the who I am, right? I tell a joke about it in my courses, where I said, you know, when I lived in Los Angeles, one day I opened the telephone book and there were 35 Jack Schwarzes on the page. And I started asking myself, who am I of the 35? Who? You know, and then I realized, thank God that I have a good memory, that I recognize my telephone number so I know which one I am. But from that time on, I started to ask myself, what am I? Because the who is just a label I got of my vehicle. The what is letting me know what my abilities are. And for instance, if we had a paper cup here, and we would have a ceramic cup here, they are both called cup. So who is that? Well, that's the cup. Well, if I take the paper cup and put them on the fire, it will burn up. So it is much better that I ask, what is it made of? What is it? How does this energy bring itself forth, in what kind of a material form? Let's see. Then we know what to do with it. And this is where you then realize that that body is just the vehicle, and that you have to start understanding that you can be great in knowing the mind, but if you don't know how this mind operates through this vehicle, then you are the great driver as a driver's license, but you doesn't know how to operate a car. You see? And this is what I see the mind as the driver, and this as the vehicle. And the vehicle will not go anywhere unless the driver directs it and controls it. And that's what that whole process of voluntary control is all about.
Thank you again for being here tonight, and thank you for sharing the wisdom you've gained and the compassion. I'm honored to have talked with you tonight. Thank you.